At the University of Nebraska, we are committed to providing students with the highest quality educational experience possible. Our student population continues to diversify, and we must continue to meet the ever-changing educational needs of our students. Our ability to meet those needs starts with our incredible teaching staff at the university.
Diversity can look like a lot of things at the university. We can look at people with different abilities being in classrooms. It can be people from all over the country, so representing different diversity in races, different diversity in gender. I think we see the whole gamut at the university in regards to diversity.
You know, there's diversity in experiences and perspectives. There's diversity in access, you know, the way students are accessing information. There's diversity in the way students process the information, and I see a lot of diversity in how they engage in the content.
Diversity is a tricky one to talk about because it means so many different things to so many different people. So it's not just race, it's not just ethnicity, it's not just disability, it's also everything else, like first generation, socioeconomic status, the level of support you have. So I try to think mostly what impacts me as a teacher and them as students.
So I'm a lot more flexible in terms of any students who want any Zoom private tutoring sessions, whether I'm teaching live, which I currently am, I provide those. I make sure that students that would have any special needs are always seated where they want to be. I have one student who's hard of hearing, so I make sure she sits in the front. And then always help students review for quizzes.
The diversity comes with teaching. You have to be thinking about how all students learn and then adapt your teaching style to everybody. So it's presenting differently, it's having different activities, it's assessing students differently. So at some point you're meeting all of their needs with the end result of making sure that they learn the content that you've deemed valuable.
Well, it impacts the way I design my courses, and thinking about how to ensure that, you know, all that diversity is welcomed, and creating an inclusive environment where all the students, regardless of how they approach learning, feel, you know, comfortable engaging in the course.
Hello and welcome. Over the course of this video series, we will be investigating one very important topic: universal design for learning. Over the course of this video, we will address three main tenets. What is universal design for learning? What are the tenets of universal design for learning? And what are the benefits of universal design for learning? Universal design for learning, or UDL for short, is a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how humans learn. UDL is a framework that can help guide educators on how to meet the individual needs of their students in their classroom. This can range from classroom design to use of specific instructional methods and assessment methods, and even classroom materials such as textbooks and seating arrangements, all of which provide for better instruction for students and more efficient planning for teachers.
Accessibility is always at the forefront of my mind, thinking about how to make my content and my activities accessible to all learners. I try to incorporate different ways students can engage in my courses, so giving them options for how to, say, participate, whether for my in-class courses. In terms of my online courses, I give them options for how they want to respond to their discussion boards, whether they want to do it by typing their answers or doing a video recording.
Yes, students have to take responsibility for their own learning, but ultimately, in general, if they're not prepared, that means I wasn't prepared. And so it's important for me to build that scaffolding in and build that structure around students.
I think the way it impacts my teaching most is from the assessment perspective, I guess. So I think that's where I focus most in my teaching, is I want to just make sure everyone can show me what they learned in a way that they're comfortable with, even if they also have to do it maybe in a way they're less comfortable with. There's like a measure where I can tell.
I think all teaching is intentional, and if you are looking at those principles, the universal design principles, it's all front loaded. And so once you have that framework put into place, then it makes it pretty easy to be able to have everything laid out in a fashion when you're teaching that day, or you're assessing, or you're thinking about it.
Now it's just become such a natural part of my planning process. It's just how I approach my planning, thinking about all these different types of learners and ensuring that, you know, what the content that I'm presenting is accessible. If you get into the practice of doing that regularly for everything, it's just a seamless part of the planning process.
I try to spend as much time up front as possible so that during the semester it's less of a struggle, because I think as students you guys can tell when we show up and are like, I'm less prepared today. And so if I have a plan for that, then I'm not like every week going, oh no, what am I doing next week? Because I think that's not good instruction, I think.
Made my planning a lot more diverse in terms of the types of activities that I do and the types of learning experiences. I prefer to put students in groups and have them go over the content.
Allows the content to be more accessible, which then in turn improves their access to the content and their ability to learn the content by ensuring that, not only that it's accessible, but that they have there's flexibility, that they have different ways to access, participate, and engage in the learning process. I think that just improves learning overall.
I think the impact is my hope is that they learn it, that they walk away having the content that I have planned for them to learn. If not, then that comes back to me that I need to change things up and take the feedback that I get from students and do things differently in the future. But if I've done it correctly, the majority of all of my students are learning the content and meet the objectives.
One of the things is when they're working in groups and they're basically they're doing their guided practice. And I'm circulating around. I can tell who's participating. I can tell who's getting it, who's not getting it. Also, one of the things that I've done is I do a lot of questioning with students. One of the things that teachers are uncomfortable with is silence when they ask a question at all levels. And so lots of times teachers ask a question, they become uncomfortable, and then they answer their own question. And then, of course, if a teacher does that, students are like, I don't have to answer this question. One of the things that I tell my students is, my background is not only in education, it's also in counseling, so I'm very good at waiting. And my wait time is definitely longer than yours. And once students understand that, there's more participation. The technique of having students turn to each other and come up with 3 reasons why teachers don't understand positive reinforcement. And then that way I know that everyone has an answer.
The Universal Design for Learning framework was first developed by researchers at the Harvard Graduate School of Education and the Center for Applied Special Technology in the 1990s to create classrooms that are accommodative for all different types of learners. Since the Universal Design for Learning's development, applications of its research and its framework have been incorporated into the Higher Education Opportunity Act of 2008, the 2004 reauthorization of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2016. Now, before we dive headfirst into this invaluable tool in the educator's tool belt, let's first talk about some general truths that make up the foundation of UDL. 1. All students can learn. This might seem obvious, but it's important to think about for a second. Every student in your classroom has the potential to be successful. No student is born knowing more or less about what you're teaching, nor are they any more apt to pick up your content faster or slower than their peers. Every student in your classroom has a unique learning profile and can demonstrate knowledge in diverse ways. It is the job of educators to adapt their instruction to meet the needs of their students, not the job of students to rewire their brains so that they might understand you better. 2. Every student is different. It is widely believed in educational research that an individual's learning characteristics are as unique as one's own fingerprint. If you instruct every student the same, it's almost certain that some of your students will miss out on valuable learning opportunities. This means that instructors frequently have to make accommodations to their instructional methods and assessment technique to best teach students. 3. Planning is key. As we just reviewed, if every student can learn, but every student is different, then how do we ever create instruction? Enter UDL. The framework we will be covering shortly is a preemptive strategy to address individual needs before students ever step into your classroom, saving you valuable time that would have been spent responding to the multiple different individual needs of students. Universal Design for Learning is based on 3 major instructional and assessment beliefs. 1, providing multiple means of engagement, which is frequently referred to as the why of learning, and is targeted towards creating lessons that grab students' attention and keep them locked in. 2, providing multiple means of representation, frequently referred to as the what of learning. It's focused on the ways in which information is perceived, comprehended, and encoded. This area is closely tied to the second mindset issue we discussed earlier, that every student is different. The representation step provides a multitude of different formats to show content and how it might affect student outcomes. And finally, 3, provide multiple means of action and expression, frequently referred to as the how of teaching. As stated earlier in our mindset section, all students can learn. This section will help you learn different ways that students can display what they know. There is not one means of action and expression that will be optimal for all learners, and therefore a range of assessment measures is essential. We will be covering these tenets in greater depth in subsequent videos, but it's important to know that these are 3 areas crucial to establishing a healthy learning environment in your classroom. Please check out the next video in the series, Multiple Means of Instruction, the 3 Tenets of UDL, where we will go further into the specifics of Universal Design for Learning. On behalf of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, we would like to extend our gratitude for you taking this important step towards improving your instruction. And as always, go Big Red.